Welcome friends. So this is KASNEB ATD Level 1, Introduction to Law and Ethics. Time you can see is 3 hours, and we are going to do the April 2022 paper. This was done in the afternoon. So welcome. We'll be going through question at a time, and we'll start with question 1. In relation to law of tort, explain 2 ingredients in the tort of negligence. In relation to the law of tort, explain 2 ingredients in the tort of negligence. 4 marks. Now, normally there are 3, but some writers will even have 4. But this question is good enough. It's asking us for only 2. So, question A, 1A, the 2 most notable ingredients in the tort of negligence. Number 1, there must be a duty of care. There must be a duty of care. So it must be proven that there is some care that was expected of you, especially from a person of your skills, from a person of your, the status quo, from a person of your professional standing. There is some duty that is expected of a person of your stature. That has to be proven, that indeed the way you present yourself, or the way you are, or who you are, there is at least the minimum expectations of minimum level of expectation of care that you should accord to any person who possibly will have suffered as a result of you are not practicing what is expected of you. So number 1 ingredient is that there must be a duty of care. It must exist. The person who possibly has committed the wrong, it should be proven beyond doubt that he needed to accord the necessary or the expected level of responsibility to show some care according to his standing, either in the society, professionally, in terms of skill or something. That is very important. Number 2, there must be a proof that there was a breach to the duty of care, that this person in one or the other did not perform or performed what was not expected of him. So he either performed what was not expected of a person of his stature or his skill, or he performed something which is inconsistent with a person of his nature, or a person of his skills, or a person of his stature. So as a result of that action, possibly this duty of care was breached or infringed. And as a result of the breach of this duty of care, there was harm. The other person suffered harm, or suffered injury, or suffered pain, whichever way you put it, but the other person should have suffered to some extent, and the suffering should be able to be proven, and that this suffering should be as a result of the breach of duty of care that was supposed to be accorded by a person who was actually had everything that was expected of him to provide the duty of care. So these are the 3 key ingredients that are required for the law of the tort of negligence to be successful. Now the question is only asking for 2, which means you might pick on any of these. There must be a duty of care, there must be breach to the duty of care, and there must be harm as a result of the breach to the duty of care. Those are the 3 ingredients. Just pick any 2. Then B, discuss 5 remedies that are available for an unpaid seller under the sale of goods. An unpaid seller. You have here we are talking about a buyer and a seller. So the buyer has paid for the goods. Now this is a seller. He has not been paid for the goods, and possibly he thinks that he will not be paid for the goods, maybe because the buyer is insolvent, or the buyer has possibly received the goods and he doesn't show any sign of paying, or perhaps in the process of trying to perform the contract, the buyer has deliberately shown all the necessary moves to show that he will not pay? No. So there could be so many reasons that could lead to this paid seller becoming worried and possibly wanting to take action. So let's just look at some of the remedies that are available for this unpaid seller under the sale of goods. Now, it's also worth noting here that the unpaid seller might have remedies on the goods themselves, and he might also have remedies on the buyer, on the goods and the buyer. So we'll look at any of them, so long as it's a remedy to this unpaid seller, and will help him at least recover either part of or all of the goods that he had sold to this buyer, who may not be promising to do what? To pay. So number one, he might sue the buyer for action for price. He might sue the buyer for action for price. So he might sue the buyer for actual payment. We might also call this for he might sue for actual price, or he might also sue for specific performance. That is possibly for the court to command the buyer to do what he was supposed to do as per the contract. He might sue the buyer for specific performance, or he might institute an action for price so that he actually gets what is rightfully his. He might also sue for damages for non-acceptance of the goods, especially if he has already possibly dispatched the goods to the buyer's premises, and then the buyer stubbornly or deliberately, or for one reason or the other, which may not go well with the unpaid seller or may not have been captured in the contract, he refuses to do what? To pay for the goods, or to buy, or to accept the goods. So in such cases, the seller might sue the buyer for damages. Damages are the losses that the seller incurred in the process of trying to possibly pass over the goods, to sell or pass over the goods to the buyer. The extent of the losses that the seller has suffered, and this will be assessed by the court, and then it will be possibly instituted against the buyer. So the buyer will be required to pay damages to the extent of the losses which will have been assessed by the court. Then so this is the second remedy available for the unpaid seller. The third remedy is repudiation of the contract, before the due date, especially if the unpaid seller has possibly part of the agreement has already not been fulfilled. If they agreed that the payment will be done in advance of or by a certain date before the services are offered, then in such cases, when there's that breach of contract and the services have not been offered, and the seller may simply choose to repudiate the contract, so long as it's before the due date. Part of the contract has already not been satisfied, or he has very clear information that the contract was not entered into in good faith. So these are some of the things, and he can prove before the court of law. These are some of the things that can lead to repudiation of the contract. Repudiation of the contract is where you simply, because of the reasons that you have, you can choose to walk away from the contract, especially if you are convinced beyond doubt and you have enough reasons why it is necessary for you to walk away from that contract. Then in such cases, you might choose to walk away from that contract before it happens. Though these ones might again raise some issues, especially the buyer might choose to also sue you for damages. It depends with how you are going to treat that. You can also just sue for breach of contract. Suing for breach of contract might of course lead to damages, but let's just have it here. Sue for breach of contract. Of course, this one will lead to after the assessment by the court might either compensate you with the damages from, of course, the buyer is the one to pay the damages, or it might also order the buyer to come up order the buyer for specific performance. Then we also have actions against the goods. We have the right to lien or possession, and this is where you basically, the buyer might choose to hold on to the goods until he receives all the payment for the goods from the buyer. It is possible. We call that right to lien or right to possession, where you choose to hold the goods until something happens. In this case, we might say until you pay, the payment is received either in full or partly as per the contract. That is very much possible. Then you also have right of stoppage in transitu. If the seller has already released the goods, maybe has dispatched the goods to a driver or the messenger, his messenger, to deliver the goods to the buyer, so long as that the driver or the transporter has not delivered those goods to the buyer, or has not put the goods in a deliverable state, the unpaid seller can always recall those goods back. He can order the buyer, the transporter, to stop where he is and turn back to basically return to the seller's premises for repossession of the goods. So long as the goods have not been put in a deliverable state to the buyer, or have not been presented to the buyer, or nobody has come to ask for the goods from the buyer, in such like cases, we say the seller will still have the rights over the goods, and he can stop the goods in transit and basically order them back to his premises. That is also a possibility. We also have right of resale. Right of resale. If he's holding onto the goods and possibly part of the contract has not already been performed by maybe the buyer has already breached part of the contract, or one or two things have happened, the seller may have the right to sell that property. He might have the right to, you can have the right to sell the property. That's what we mean by right of resale. He can sell it to anybody else, but he needs to have a good reason why he is reselling what has already been sold, especially if the buyer has already gone against part of the agreement or the contract, or there's very pertinent information that can even stand the test of law in case it comes to that. We also have, I think this one, there is right to withhold delivery, but this one, withhold delivery, so that you basically don't deliver the goods, you stay with the goods. Almost related to right to stoppage in transitu, but stoppage in transitu, you must not have placed the goods in a deliverable state or handed over the goods to the buyer. Right to withhold delivery, where you stubbornly refuse to withhold to deliver the goods because of one reason or the other. Okay, so I think those ones are, we can work with these ones. These are how many points? 10 points, and they only wanted 5 remedies. So it's upon you to pick on any of these and then do the expounding explanation. Very important that you it's very important that you know that the unpaid seller has the rights on both the goods and also the buyer. That will give you as many points as possible. So let's go to item C. In relation to insurance law, the insurer and the insured have to uphold certain insurance principles for good function of an insurance. List any 6 of these insurance principles. Now, the insurance principles, these are the pillars that define insurance. They must be there for any insurance contract to say that it's basically a binding contract. These must be there, and they are observed in any insurance contract. When you talk of principles, principles are the platforms upon which a whole subject or discipline, or now in this case insurance, basically depends on. The platform that basically supports insurance, the pillars that support insurance. So when we talk about the insurance principles, and they want 6 of these insurance principles, we'll start with the first one, the principle of uberimae fidei, uberimae fidei. This is called principle of utmost good faith, utmost good faith. That whoever is going for an insurance policy must go there with clean hands, and he must present all the facts as they are, all the facts that the other party might deem relevant as they are. You must not withhold any information that is very pertinent to the other party, especially when making decisions. So you need to disclose all the material facts, disclosure of all the material facts. Material facts will mean anything that is significant, especially in the decision-making process of the policy or the other party who is now entering into a contract with you. It's very important before underwriting, determining the premiums payable, that this principle is observed. If you don't observe this principle, a whole contract may have been built on sand. That means that it will not stand the test when that time for compensation comes, falls due. Then the second one, we have the principle of indemnity. Principle of indemnity. This is very key in insurance. And indemnity here, what we mean is simply compensation. That the whole of the insurance contract is about compensation, and compensation is about returning or taking you back to the same position you were before the incident that is posing the risk occurred. So the whole of insurance contract is about taking you back, reinstating you to the same position you were, reinstating you, whoever has been affected by the risk, to the same position he was before the risk occurred. That is the whole thing about insurance. So it in no way doesn't aim at benefiting or enriching the insured. It doesn't aim at enriching the insured. It aims at reinstating the insured back to the same position he was before the incident occurred, and that is the principle of indemnity. Now, this principle of indemnity is very key, and it basically holds other principles, like we have the principle of subrogation. Principle of subrogation. It's also another principle, one of the principles. Principle of subrogation simply states that once, for example, you have incurred the risk and the insurance company comes to your it compensates you, then that other wreckage, whatever remained, the remnants of your old property, will be repossessed by the insurance company. Why? For the simple reason that the insurance company is not meant to benefit you. It's simply meant to reinstate you, to take you back to the same position you were before the risk occurred. If you had a vehicle and this vehicle was involved in a road accident, and this vehicle is declared worn out, written off, then the insurance company compensates you with another vehicle or a check of the same value to buy basically another vehicle. Then the wreckage, that wreckage of the vehicle that was written off, will be basically assumed by the insurance company. It becomes the property of the insurance company So the insurance company can possibly resell it and reduce its losses. But for you, you cannot have a new car and also the wreckage. That will go against the principles of insurance, and we call that the principle of subrogation. So principle of subrogation, where you are not supposed, where the insured is not supposed to benefit in any way, from the insurance contract. And specifically we say the wreckage will be assumed, or the old property that has been affected by the risk will be now assumed. The ownership will change, and it will now be owned by the insurance company, especially after the insurance company has come in to compensate you, to take you back to the same position you were before the loss occurred. Now, the other one is principle of contribution, also very much closely related to this principle of indemnity, that if you've insured the same policy, you've insured the same object, actually the right word is the object. If you have insured an object with two insurance providers, so basically what you are saying is that you have maybe multiple policies running for the same risk, That means you are paying premium to these different insurance companies, and then the risk occurs. Should we have such like a case, then all these insurance companies will not come to compensate you. Why? Because if all of them come to compensate you, then it means you will gain. And in fact, to a larger extent, because if you lose one car, and this one car had been, you had multiple insurance policies, like 4. Do you expect all these 4 companies to come and compensate you, each giving you a car? Because possibly this car has been written off. Then in that case, you will have 4 cars. So what happens? All these insurance providers will come together, and they will agree and contribute in proportion to what you have insured with them. So they will contribute in proportion to the premiums or what you have insured with them, so that at the very end you only are eligible for 1 car, not 4. That is what the principle of contribution is all about. So they will come together, and according to the proportion of what you insured with them, the policies that they hold with you, they will contribute and give you 1 car, so that you walk away with only 1 car. Simple reasoning here, that you are not supposed to benefit in any way from an insurance company. You are only supposed to be reinstated to the same position you were before the loss occurred. Then you have principle of insurable interest. Principle of insurable interest, that there must be some benefit. There must be some forbearance. There must be something you are benefiting. There must be something you are gaining from the existence of that particular asset when it was in use, or when it was active, or when it was in life. There must be something that you are getting from its existence. If there was nothing you are getting from its existence, then there is no point for the insurance companies coming to reinstate you. Where will they reinstate you to? When the asset was still useful or in its life, you are not getting any benefit for in its existence. So why should they reinstate you, and there's nothing you've lost by losing that asset? So the simple logic here is this, that they are reinstating you so that you can continue enjoying the benefits you were enjoying before the incident that caused the risk occurred. So if there was nothing that you're enjoying when that asset was useful, then there's nowhere they will be reinstating you to. So before you insure anything, make sure that there is insurable interest, make sure that there is some benefit you derive as a result of the existence of that particular asset or object. This is very important when we talk about, say, a husband and a wife, kids and the husband and their father. The father becomes there must be some benefit they were getting from the father when the father was alive, before the insurance company can now come back to proceed. When you talk about an old motor vehicle that was not running for the last 5 years, seriously, and then fire just comes from nowhere, and but in the first place, you will not be allowed to insure this, because when you will be going to insure, there will be no insurable interest. But wait a minute, this is part of the reason why we have the principle of Uberima FDA, because some people, at the insurance point, when you are entering into this contract, the insurance company is not normally very keen. They believe in you. They believe that you are going to tell them the utmost truth. So if you go and misrepresent facts, you go and tell them that I'm using this car, it's running, yet the car is not running, and then you enter into this contract, and after some time, the maybe fire comes out, fire, thieves or something, and destroys this, or a building that was not occupied for the last, I don't know how many years, because of reasons. Maybe it is witchcraft or something, and so it is inhabitable, and then fire comes and it burns the entire house. So you want to be compensated. Yet when the house was in existence, nobody could live in the house. So in such like cases, those ones may not hold water. So principle of insurable interest, there must be benefit you are getting by the existence of that object matter which is insured. Then we have a principle of proximate, principle of proximae causa, or proximate cause. Proximate cause. That the cause of the loss must not be so much far-fetched from, or remote. It must not be so remote from the risk that you insured. That risk which you have whatever it is that has possibly affected your object, the object which had been insured, the cause of the risk, the peril, should not be far-fetched from what has been captured in the policy document. It should be very close to what has been captured as being the possible cause of risk in the policy document. If it's so much far-fetched, the insurance company can simply walk away from that contract. So whatever the peril of the risk is, should be very close to what was captured in the policy document when you were entering into that particular contract. We also have principle of loss minimization. Principle of loss minimization. Principle of loss minimization. Yes, this is very important, that you must show that you have tried your level best, and not just show, you actually need to show that you have tried your level best in mitigating the loss. Otherwise, if it is thought that you are part of the problem, sometimes people just, for one reason or the other, you think that you need something else, or you just want to be compensated. People are different. So you must have put all the measures in place to protect or to prevent that risk which has occurred from occurring. So put enough measures to protect the risk so that it doesn't occur, or prevent or mitigate the risk. And should it occur, can you also do enough that is within your capacity or power to try and reduce the level of risk. Otherwise, if you say that I have insured this, so let it just burn, there is no problem, let it just burn because I have insured. Let me just go with this vehicle, though the tires are worn out. After all, I have insured, I have comprehensive car insurance. That will go against the principles of insurance, and you are likely not to succeed when you are seeking for your compensation. You should do everything possible within your means to try and prevent or mitigate any risk from occurring. Let the risk occur, but let it be not be within your power. It should have gone outside your powers after you've tried everything possible to reduce the chances of the risk occurring. So how many are these? These are 7 points. The question is asking for 6 points. Just pick any 6 and you'll be good to go. So thank you. Let's meet in the next question. We'll be discussing question number 2.